Hi everyone. You asked that I make a video about how to find the difference quotient and just review some of the things we discussed in class today. So here we go. We'll do two examples and make the video really quick. Let's find the difference quotient of this function. Let's let f of x be defined as 3x minus 5. And we want to find the difference quotient. Remember, the formula for the difference quotient is f of x plus h minus f of x, all divided by h. This is how we're going to calculate the difference quotient. I like to take this in steps or calculate it in phases. So first we're going to start by finding what f of x plus h equals. F of x plus h is going to equal 3 times x plus h minus 5. We're going to distribute the 3. And this will give us a product of 3x plus 3h minus 5. This is what f of x plus h equals. So we have determined this part. Okay? So for the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to subtract f of x from f of x plus h. This means that f of x plus h minus f of x is going to equal 3x plus 3h minus 5 minus what f of x was originally defined as, and that was 3x minus 5. So this equals 3x plus 3h minus 5. Again, we need to distribute this negative. So a negative times a positive 3x is a negative 3x, and a negative times a negative 5 is a positive 5. We can see here that some of our terms will cancel out. The 3x minus 3x cancels out or equals 0. Negative 5 plus 5 is also 0, so we're left with 3h. Now, if we go back to what the difference quotient was defined as, or the formula, we see that our difference quotient is going to be f of x plus h minus f of x, which is what we just calculated, to equal 3h. So that equaled 3h. And now we still have to divide by h. So then 3h divided by h, the h's cancel out, and we are left with 3. So our final answer for the difference quotient for this function is 3. Let's do another one. Let's find the difference quotient of f of x equals x squared plus 1. Again, the difference quotient is defined as f of x plus h minus f of x, all divided by h. So if we want to find f of x plus h first, it would look like this. We're going to take x plus h and substitute it into f in place of the x that we see. So the x plus h, we use a different color, sorry. is going to be substituted in place of this x, and that would equal x plus h, and we still have the squared and the plus 1. So we have to remember something from our algebra classes, that we are squaring a binomial, so we have to FOIL. X plus h squared means that we are taking x plus h and multiplying it by itself. So we're going to FOIL this. I like to just use distribution, so that's how I'm going to discuss it. X times x is x squared. X times h is xh. And then we also have to distribute the h times x is also xh. And h times h is h squared. Combine our like terms, we have two xh's, so this would be x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. And that is what x plus h squared equals. But don't forget, we still have this plus 1. So I'll put a plus 1 here. So f of x plus h equals x squared plus 2xh plus h squared plus 1. Now we need to subtract from this function the original value of f of x, or the original function f of x. So f of x plus h minus f of x is going to equal all of this minus f of x. So I'm going to rewrite it. X squared plus 2xh plus h squared plus 1 minus, and f of x was x squared plus 1. Don't forget to distribute. So then this equals x squared plus 2xh plus h squared plus 1. A negative 1 times a 1x squared is a negative x squared. And a negative times a positive 1 is a negative 1. As you can see, we have x squared plus 2xh plus h squared plus 1 minus x squared minus 1, and some of our terms will cancel out. X squared minus x squared cancels or equals 0. 1 minus 1 is 0, and we are left with 2xh plus h squared. Go back to the original formula or rule or method of calculating the difference quotient, and it reminds us that we have to divide what we just got by h. And I'm going to rewrite it. So f of x plus h minus f of x equals what we have here, 2xh plus h squared. And the difference quotient tells us we have to divide all of that by h. So we can simplify this, okay? We are dividing both terms by h, so that is the same thing as writing this as this ratio as 2xh divided by h. plus h squared divided by h. And what happens is we'll see that the h's, h divided by h is 1, and we are left with 2x, and h squared divided by h. H squared is the same thing as h times h. H times h divided by one of the h's will cancel out one h, and we're just left with an h. So our final answer is, let me erase some of this stuff. Two x plus h. And I'm sorry, I said I was going to erase, but I just squeezed it in. So that is the difference quotient for the function f of x equals x squared plus 1.